All of you fanboys are fanboying, having fanboy-gasms all over the place. Hey, it's Chris. So this is going to be a great one. I completely made this up. I decided to do my own awards ceremony of 2024's games. The highs, the lows, the WTFs, and the wows. So you ready? I have over 20 awards that I'm going to be awarding out in this video. So if you want to see what those awards are named, check out down below. But you want to know what games they are. So again, no spoilers, but you can click to which one you want to go to. That's all I got. Preamble over. Again, lots of stuff, lots of fun stuff, lots of stuff all over the place. Let's go. No particular order. Best new cooperative game. Best new cooperative game. You know me, I'm a big cooperative lover on this channel. I love me a cooperative game. And so the best new one for me was Leviathan Wilds, right? Boom. Love it. Love the climbing Shadows of Colossus-esque vibe. Love the variability with all of the different monsters that you can go up against. Wouldn't mind a little bit more variety of the characters, but it's got an expansion coming out that you'll get in 2025, so maybe we'll talk about that elsewhere in this video. Best returning cooperative game that I actually got in 2025. Right? Otherwise, this category's answer might be slightly different because it is literally less than a couple hours to go as I'm filming this of 2024, and I don't have my Marvel United Multiverse. So the winner for that one, returning significant amount of content that I can use right away, it's right behind me right here. Boss Battlers. Keep the heroes out, right? Giving you bosses you can head up against as well as play. More asymmetry, more craziness. I don't even know it's fall balanced, but you know what? It's a hell of a lot of fun. So I got to give kudos where kudos is due because it's freaking amazing. Best worker placement of the year. Again, I don't play a massive amount of worker placements, truth be told, in this channel. But I would say, seriously, even though I can't find it right now in front of me, I literally just set it down next to me earlier tonight. Wondrous Creatures from Bad Comet. I give this over several other games along those lines that I thought were very, very good. Windmill Valley up there. Luthier, the prototype, up there as well. But Wondrous Creatures, the manipulation of the tiles themselves, the resource allocation onto the board, the variability in the creatures that you're gathering, summoning, set collecting, just made it head and shoulders above any of the other ones from the 2024s, mind you, right now. Best miniature / crawl game, new in 2024. Without a doubt, without a doubt. Shortly before or after this, have my review out, a year in the making of Primal the Awakening from Reggie Games. Fantastic boss battler. Whew, wouldn't mind a standees though, right? But giving you everything you want and more from a cooperative boss battle, combo situation with some asymmetry, campaign it, one-shot it off, whatever you want from that side of things. So that was relatively an easy pick as well. Best expansion overall in 2024, and there were some outstanding candidates. You know, I did, even though this really doesn't or shouldn't qualify, my Wiz Wars expansions. And then, you know, an equally good runner-up, the Space-Based Genesis one. I'm going to have to still give the edge to Spirit Island, Nature Incarnate. And, you know, Summoner Wars put out some absolutely fantastic ones too. So that was right up there in the running. But, I mean, it's Spirit freaking Island with more freaking spirits that are freaking awesome. So I can't really say enough great things about that as a whole. And next we're going to go to two-player games. Now, not your, I can play this at 2 players, but games that are meant for 2 players. And this was a tight race between Ironwood and Agent Avenue as the games of the year. And that way, Agent Avenue edging it out with my wife's preference, you know, because again, what gets played is sometimes the edge in these situations. Ironwood is a fantastic entry from Mind Clash, and I love what they're doing with the asymmetry, but it's more like a war game. And it's a little bit more overhead, a little bit of meta. And so Agent Avenue, just as a fantastic addition, Nerd Lab Games, killing it. Killing it, killing it, killing it. What about other card games, though? What about multiplayer card games? Well, we had a little bit of a head-to-head here. Castle Combo, over there from Pandasaurus, fantastic. Veil of Eternity as well. And then a more recent entry here at the very end, Nawali, the Aztec-based symbology lane battler, if you will. And I'm going to have to give the edge at the end here, actually, to Veil of Eternity. And this is going to sound weird, but the expansion tips it over for me. I picked up the expansion here at the tail end of 2024. It adds more stuff. It adds a little bit of artifacts. It just makes it that much better. And that's probably an unfair advantage over something like Castle Combo or Nawali in that sense. But I'm looking at it as a complete package as a whole, rather than the fact that I needed an expansion to kind of tip that over the edge in the first place. Right, my awards, my channel, my hypocrisy at its best. Then let's go best Euro. The best Euro I played, and unfortunately the best Euro I played actually wasn't from 2024. It was actually from 2023. I already talked about their other game, Luthier, but I'm going to give it to Distilled. Distilled was the best new Euro to me in 2023. Fantastic game, smooth like butter, or if you prefer the more apt comparison, your favorite, microbrew lager, if you will. But absolutely great combo-driven modular system that is just ripe for the picking, and there's going to be a new expansion. I'm thinking, Cocktails as well, coming out in 2025. So we'll see how much more that can add from that aspect of things. Before we get into the crazies then with the awards, let's go to the most played. And 1 and 2 this year. Number 1, actually, surprisingly, I haven't talked about it on the channel a ton. I've gotten out of it, but it was still, by far and away, Star Wars Unlimited. Easily my number 1 played game of 2024. Not going to end up on people's top 10 lists, I don't think, and hasn't, as far as I'm aware. I don't really keep track of that thing, but I probably will at some point look at the compilation of other people's lists to talk about that in a separate video. But it's a TCG, and because TCGs are TCGs, and also TCGs don't get sent as review copies as well most of the time, I think it doesn't give as much crossover in that regard to a lot of people. And so again, it's sort of like another thing I'll be talking about separately from my top 10, my top 20, is games that may or may not have made my top 10 or 20 if I'd actually been able to play them in 2024, things like Slay the Spire, for example. And so that's just something to talk about. And then Marvel United, right? It's still one of my kids' favorite games. I love it. I'm still literally waiting for my Marvel United Multiverse pledge, as previously mentioned. So do I regret it? Not one bit whatsoever. Just happy with it. I'm running out of storage for it, and I'm selling games to try and make storage for it. So take that for what you will. Now let's get into the, let's pause for a second here before we get to the crazy ones. My favorite kids games, or my kids' favorite games, depending on how you want to flip that or look at. They can look very similar, they can look very different. 2 standouts above all else though. One, actually, on several people's top 10 lists, and when I shouted it, I got accused of being a shill again, which, shout it from the rooftops, I guess. Shill me all the way, baby. Courtesans from Pandasaurus. Absolutely just a fantastic style of take that card-driven aspects. I think it works best at 4, great at 3, not at, plus or minus at 2, wouldn't want to play it at 5. All it is a simple, I have 3 cards on a turn, I give 1 to myself, 1 to the middle, and 1 to somebody else. The ones in the middle decide what each of the suits is value-wise, either positive or negative. You can take other people's cards out, you can just add, you can make it so that they can't get rid of them, and it's just a nice twist on things in general. Chronicles of Evil is the other one, sort of the pseudo-esque dungeon crawl, hex-based modular setup, if you will. Again, expansion content is almost necessary, but the kids just cannot get enough of it. So absolutely just something that I would recommend if you're looking for that maybe like 7 to 9 age range, 8 to 10 age range, looking to get in, that aren't already waist deep playing Spirit Island and Twilight Imperium with you. So now let's go to the crazy awards. Let's go to the more fun awards. Let's go to the awards that, again, completely made up. The biggest component overload games. We have a battle here, 1 and 2, 1A and 1B, Euthia and Voidfall. Too many hours of my life lost to punching components, sorting, and organizing as a whole. Probably not far behind that is Tales from the Red Dragon Inn, actually. And so those are the ones that I just said, good gracious, I kind of, oh God, can't we? I'm not a fan of apps, but Euthia, couldn't we just go with an app from that side of things? Because freaking holy crap, Batman, right? How many hours of your life have been lost because you spent them punching and trying to organize this, right? I just like look back and go, what the hell was I thinking with something like Frosthaven? So that one, easy. The Please De-Deluxify Me award, I'm going to give to Seismic. Again, indie designer, great campaign, funded the second time around, got to play it. But again, I look at that and I go, just like with the previous two we just talked about, you know what? I know you have this dream or this picture, and a lot of these folks do on crowdfunding. You know, folks, you can make a good game without needing all of the bling. The two are not both mutually required, and it's just becoming more and more on crowdfunding. Again, I know you have a type, you like that sort of thing. It makes more money sometimes. It's easier to get people to shell out a lot of money for that than it is anything else because it doesn't have the table presence. But sometimes, again, like that's the worst trend of 2024 is just the over-deluxification of everything all the time. The biggest WTF game for me, and there were a couple. I'm looking at you, the tarot-based Arcana Prophetia over on the shelf over there. But you were unfortunately edged out by my copy of Far Cry, the video game-based board game now. I just looked at this and I said, who is this trying to appeal to? It's not a good skirmish game. It's not a good crawl game. It's got too much minutia. It's got too much overhead, and it doesn't really capture anything but a slog. I didn't really like it. I didn't think it was that great. I'm just not a fan of it whatsoever. It kind of just straddled the fence on a lot of those popular mechanisms and didn't make use of them or optimize them or make them great in any way, shape, or form to make them stand out. And so it just kind of was irritating. Irritating time. Speaking of losing hours of my life that I can't get back. So that was one of them. Let's say this is the best, let's call this the best Guards of Atlantis 2 game. Well, you know what? I was gonna go somewhere else with this at first. In a positive and a negative. We'll do it double fold, right? Double fold, right? This is my channel. I can do what I want, right? We will go first up here, World Spanners, right? Factions, set 1, 2, and 3, as just an absolutely fantastic experience-based game where, you know, just like Guards of Atlantis 2, you need to have a certain playstyle, you need to have a certain dynamic, you need to have a certain group that's going to like that experience-based chuck'em, if you will. And it definitely requires, you know, probably optimally 3 or 4 to get the full experience, sort of like a Guards of Atlantis. Secondly, and we'll just make this a separate category, I guess, the most I have to have the right group game above all else game. And that, easily, hands down, above everything else, is one of the most acclaimed games of the year, and it's Arcs. Because it's a love it or hate it. You either love how meta, you know, card-driven take that it is, or it's an Icarus, I flew too close to the sun, not the game itself, but why the effing deuce did I buy this in the first place sort of realization moment for you. And you got to have the absolute right group for that. That's going to love it. Otherwise, well, you might as well drop it like it's hot. The biggest overachiever, the biggest overachieving games. 2 of these, actually. Ironwood, in the sense that I didn't think Mind Clash could put out this solid of a 2-player game. I had some significant reservations about this one. I said, I don't know. In the world of deluxification, in the world of overification, that everything seems to need, every mechanic needs to seemingly have 17 different areas that you're spreading out to. It needs to be hitting this and 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 this. I said, can you scale back here? Can you de-Simon? Can you de-Awaken Realms these games? And can you make them? And Ironwood knocked it out of the park. The other one, as weird as this one sounds, stay with me here for a second. You know, 1A to 1B, co-winners of this award is Lord of the Rings, The Duel for Middle-earth. Now you're going, Chris, how could that be the biggest overachiever? Because I think when people saw that they were making Seven Wonders Duel, people like myself said, it's going to be overhyped. It's going to be overrated. Overrated. I'm going into this game saying it's not going to be as good as all of you fanboys are fanboying, having fanboy-gasms all over the place with, right? And I played it, and I freaking loved it. And it achieved. And it surpassed that expectation, which in the day and time we are in with the overhypification of everything, that is something to be absolutely applauded. And it is a retail game without all of those over deluxifications, while still being similar to what you know. The biggest, I don't know how I feel about this game yet. I just received my pledge earlier in December of the Freedom 5 Sentinels of the Multiverse cooperative pandemic-esque style game. I've played it several times, and I just don't have a freaking clue what I'm going to do with it or how I'm going to review it at this point. Because I like some of what it's offering. At the same time, I get this overarching sense it's going to be very grindy, samey. And the bosses are just freaking insane difficulty. So I don't really know where it stands as a whole right now. I don't know. This could be one of the best games that you've never heard of or talked about, or it could be one of the most difficult implications to discuss evenly going forward. So I feel very mixed when it comes to that. So take that for what you will. The biggest, I can't get this out of my head game. I've already talked about it already in this video, right? It's actually, again, one that you're not even going to guess at this point, but it's Agent Avenue from Nerd Lab Games. I just constantly find myself wanting to go back to that game and play it. I don't know what it is. I am not typically, I have not been, I do not go out of my way to look for the I cut you choose mechanic, but the addition of the black market alongside of it, it just is so enjoyable in terms of the I know what you know what I know that you think that I know that you know what I'm going to do sort of situations. The counter bluffing that goes on is just fantastic. So I just can't stop thinking, okay, I want to go back and play that more. The biggest out of nowhere games, like where the freaking deuce did that game come from? I didn't hear about it beforehand. I didn't expect it to be this good. How is it sustained its run like this? And we had one in the first half of 2024, and we had one in the second half of 2024. The first half was Harmonies. That game came out of nowhere. No one was like, hey, you know what? In 2023, the end of 2023, there's going to be this game called Harmonies. And it's going to be sold out for months at a time. And you're going to love it. And it's going to be one of the best games of 2024. No one said no one, right? Shortly after this, sometime later in the month, I'll have these are the games everyone's going to be talking about in 2025, trying to predict which ones are going to be hype and hottest, probably mostly unsuccessfully, but I'm going to have fun with it. This would not have made the list last year. No one had a clue, right? There's things that leak over, like Veil of Eternity, like Evenfall, that leaked over into late 2023 if you were lucky to get an Essen copy that most people didn't get until 2024. But this was not really one of those. And so that was easily the first half of the year. The second half of the year was The Gang. Holy frickin' deuce, Batman, right? The Gang, it's poker. It's the game, the mind, the poker version of that. I called it before Essen, but, I didn't think it was going to get this big, right? I said this is going to be something that is absolutely fantastic. It's only fantastic, though, if you know how to play poker. If you don't know how to play poker, it's going to fall pretty flat. But for those that do, just like the game last night where I taught it to some new friends from my church. And everyone was just like, yeah, this is great. This is just a lot of fun. And this encapsulates all of those things that you want in that regard. The why did I get this game in the first place award? Why did I acquire this game? What the hell was I thinking? It's an easy pick, actually. Andromeda's Edge. What was I thinking with that game, right? I have yet to get more than 2 games in of Andromeda's Edge. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I have the not fully super deluxe, but I have like the deluxe. So I could easily see myself getting rid of this game in 2025. Easily. No questions asked, right? And I don't want to necessarily, but I look at it as I'm not one of those people who's, obsessed about it and got, like 150 games in already before the end of 2024. So I can see why maybe some people like it, but at the same time, I think it's got this mythos around it rather than just I want to get into it and I can't separate the two out fully as much as I'd like. So that's why I feel conflicted. The worst game that I played in 2024. No, it's actually not any of my kids' games. It's Enemies and Lovers, The Crown of Elfheim. it was sort of this weird strategy, deduction, deception game on crowdfunding. And it just felt completely and utterly unbalanced in terms of card placement, where you had to acquire like one of each of these 4 cards that were only so many limited in the deck, and like face up and face down manipulation and maybe some traps and maybe some hiding. But the execution left a lot to be desired, and the balance, again, like I said, just wasn't there at all. And I was kind of hoping in my video, and I talked about it, like I hope that there's some changes between when I, get it and when the crowdfunding campaign ran, and there really weren't, as far as I could tell. So hopefully something happens with that post-production, but I guess it's based off an IP too. So people are going to IP and like the IP and be okay with a game from that standpoint sometimes. So take that for what you will. The biggest crowdfunding surprise, the biggest campaign crowdfunding surprise for me was Leviathan Wilds, actually. It was Leviathan Wilds in terms of, this is just doing amazing. It's giving me more of the great stuff, and it's absolutely killing it from a funding standpoint. Clearly, people are seeing what they put out there and loving it. The biggest crowdfunding arrival surprise, you know what? People weren't saying this when it launched. People weren't saying it before it delivered, but it was easily Slay the Spire. Easily, as it's now on tons of people's top 10 lists all over the place. But it wasn't on everybody's list when it was on crowdfunding, right? There were a lot of people, again, myself included, that said, I don't have a freaking clue what this is going to do. I don't have a freaking clue how this is going to be received. Like, you've got a great IP, but is it going to match? And it blew expectations out of the water. And I guess similarly with Dead Cells, that have been very, very good IP situations. So if I wanted to make that a whole separate category, those again would be easily the winners in that regard. Then the biggest crowdfunding letdown campaign, the biggest campaign that went on during 2024. And I said, I had such high expectations and I wanted to back this and I wanted to get this. And I just left it going, I can't. And that was Grim Coven for me. I went into Grim Coven last year at this time, at the beginning of 2024. As soon as they announced Grim Coven, it was on the #1 spot on my list, or #2, depending on what list it was, because I think it was like, DC United and Grim Coven, going back and forth. Easily. Boss Battling, Awakened Realms, Quality Project, Low Basement, Highest Ceiling. And I just said, nope. Changing stuff, no rule book, kind of prototype stuff all over the place there. Shelfside's review of it, and just even post-campaign or changing big mechanics to go along with it makes me go, I have no idea. I have no idea what this is going to look like at the end. And it's going to have great ratings because, crowdfunding always has good ratings, right? But is it for me? And I couldn't answer that question whatsoever. So we'll see. And maybe I'll pick it up on the secondary market. Maybe I'll get a review copy, right? Or maybe I just won't end up with it at all. And, sometimes that's okay too. Can't have everything, can't play everything, don't need everything. The biggest letdown expansion for me. Not a bad expansion. Biggest letdown expansion. Cascadia Landmarks. I went into it going, this is Cascadia. This is frickin' Cascadia, folks. I love this game. My wife played it. I played it. And we just said, we can use these elements, but it wasn't like we had to use them. It wasn't like we felt like the huge desire to use all of them, even when they were incorporated. And so it was fine. But I went in going, I think this could be great. And I went out going, well, I could just play without it too now. I feel like I missed a ton. So kind of feel mixed either way, right? Then we're getting near the end here. We'll go back a year and forward a year. Biggest carryovers from 2023, ones that I found myself playing a lot of, enjoying just as much as I did last year. Easy wins on this one as well. I've covered one of them already, Marvel United. More and more and more, right? One of the few games that, even though I bought so much of it, it's paid for itself in terms of play to cost ratio. My kids' favorite game, period. So the cooperative nature of it, the asymmetry, not really the heroes. They aren't as asymmetric as I may like, but the enemies are absolutely fantastic. some of the situational expansion stuff is absolutely fantastic. So it puts it head and shoulders above a lot of other stuff we play in terms of accessibility, ease of access, attractability from the kids standpoint, and just overall awesomeness. And then Dune Imperium Uprising sitting behind me, which again, you know, as my number one game of 2023, still just as excited to play it as I am, you know, as I was last year. And I was even looking at, you know, a custom made playmat online earlier tonight on Etsy. So I probably shouldn't get that. Anyway, going forward then as well, best upcoming retail, most anticipated upcoming retail game. That's why these are back to back. Bloodlines, Direwolf, digital. I want to see what Bloodlines can do. How much does it change? How much does it just add, like a Veil of Eternity expansion, giving me more of the good stuff? And just, again, one of those games where I probably can't have enough, and that ties me into the last one here, and that is the best or the most anticipated upcoming crowdfunding project. We'll just put it into Q1 right now, and that is the Bullet Cube. More Bullet from Level 99 Games, giving me a couple more expansions, a storage box, which I probably don't need, and a few more promos to go along with it. So that is my most anticipated right now as one of my favorite games of all time, not to mention their upcoming Wardens campaign, which is going to be another 5x5 skirmish, and we'll kind of see where things go from there. So my best of it and everything else in between awards 2024. Let me know what you think. Comments, questions, or concerns down below. What was it for you? Have a great freaking day. Subscribe. I have a Patreon. Hit me up down below. Doing tons of the don't back it, don't do retail, and everything else in between crowdfunding roundups this year in 2025. So if I'm helping you save money, hit me up down below. You get into a little exclusive content as well. Thanks for watching. Stay classy. Peace out. Can we hit 20 grand? 20 grand? Is that how you say it? 20K? It's been a long night, right? 20K by the end of 2025. That'd be amazing. So subscribers, hit me up. Peace out. Stay classy.